Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.
Infectious disease bill. The infectious.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.
Go ahead now. I will not use this.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. This is Spectacle, your socio-political and economic program on Television Nigeria. I am Daniel Atai. And today, we shall still be looking at the House of Representatives and the Infectious Diseases Control Bill, though rescinded, but subject to public hearing and opinions. The questions to be answered would be, will the public opinion count against lest the aye have it, or the nay have it? Which one should come first? Disease control bill or disease control infrastructure? And many questions you too have to ask the House of Reps. But stay tuned, and after this timeout, I shall introduce to you the renowned human rights lawyer in the studio who shall be dealing with the analysis. Please stay with TVN.
This is Television Nigerian, a broadcast network committed to serving you the very best in online and offline television programming. Situated in the serene environment of Gusape, Abuja FCT, TVN, as it is fondly called, caters to a wide variety of audience via carefully orchestrated mind-blowing programs in the areas of fashion, business, politics, entertainment, religion, movies, food and health, culture and lifestyle, events around the globe, sports and foreign news. Whatever your inclination, we've got you completely covered with programs like Issues of the Moment, The Patriot, Daybreak Nigeria, Matter Africa, TVN Business Time, Healthy Living, From the Cradle, Stay Inspired, Entertainment Gist, Movie Hour, Hit Paradise, among others. All designed to keep you thoroughly informed, entertained, at the edge of your seat and yearning for more. A tour around our domain will reveal a highly dedicated staff force and a state-of-the-art facility and equipment for high-definition quality broadcast, making our station your number one choice in advertising your business and propagating your ideas. We are currently on NIGECOMSAT doing our test transmission for takeoff in the nearest future. Television Nigerian is located in Nigeria at Television Nigerian House, Guzape Hilltop Mansion, beside Guzape White House, Guzape Abuja FCT, and in the United Kingdom at 45 Ancient House, 48 Aerodrome Road.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome back. I have with me in the studio Barrister Edward Omaga, a human rights lawyer and an anti-corruption crusader. Barrister Omaga is also the president of Global Integrity Crusade Network, a civil society organization based in Abuja. Omaga is the National Public Relations Officer, International Human Rights Protection Service, with headquarters in Florida, United States of America. Please welcome to Spectacle.
Thank you so much.
That's good. Before we go into this bill that was rescinded and many questions surrounding the bill, we would like to give the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, would like to give him the chance to hear him out about what he said about this bill before we go ahead. Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, on the controversy generated by the proposed Control of Infectious Disease Bill 2020, the House of Representatives Chamber, Tuesday, the 5th May 2020. And he went on to say, protocol, when the House last sat in session on Tuesday, the 28th of April 2020, we considered the proposed Control of Infectious Disease Bill, amongst other things. Since then, there has been a barrage of criticism and accusations, including allegations that the proposed bill is a product of inducement by foreign interests. The bill, which is still a proposal subject to consideration, amendment, and improvement, has been assailed as a sinister attempt to turn Nigerians into guinea pigs for medical research while taking away their fundamental human rights. Suffice it to say that none of these allegations are true. Unfortunately, we now live in a time when conspiracy theories have gained such currency that genuine endeavors in the public interest can quickly become mischaracterized and misconstrued to raise the sector of sinister intent and ominous possibility. This House of Representatives will never take any action that proposes to willfully bring harm to any Nigerian, here, at home, or abroad. As we have thus far shown by our conduct, the resolutions and actions we take in this 9th House of Representatives will always be in the best interest of the Nigerian people who elected us and no one else. In the recent uproar, certain fundamental truths have been lost and are worth remembering. Our current framework for the prevention and management of infectious diseases is obsolete and no longer fit for purpose. The current law severely constrains the ability of the federal government of Nigeria and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, to take proactive action to prevent the entry into Nigeria of infectious diseases and the management of public health emergencies when they occur. Even now, the government remains vulnerable to claims that some directives already being implemented to manage the present crisis do not have the backing of the law and therefore cannot withstand judicial scrutiny. I disagree wholeheartedly with the suggestion that this is not the ideal time to seek reforms of the infectious disease and public health emergency framework in the country. The weaknesses of the present system have already manifested in the inability of the government to hold to proper account those whose refusal to adhere with Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC's) guidelines led to the further spread of the coronavirus in Nigeria. We have had people break out from isolation centers, and others who, fully aware of their status, choose to travel across state lines on public transport. The number of those currently infected by the coronavirus continues to rise alongside the number of those who have died. There is no timeline for when this disease will pass, and nobody can predict when the next public health crisis will occur, just as nobody predicted the present predicament. It bears restating that we do not have in our country a healthcare system, or for that matter, a national economy that is sufficiently robust to withstand the dire consequences of a sustained infectious disease pandemic. We cannot tie our own hands in the fight against this disease, Femi said. Femi continued to say, whether we choose to accept it or not, the world we live in has changed irretrievably. There is no normal to return to, as this present crisis has laid bare the fundamental weaknesses in our systems of law and policy and left our nation at risk of devastating outcomes on all sides. Our current task is first to survive and then to set about building a new world. Inevitably, this demands that we should be willing to consider new ideas, explore novel possibilities, rejecting those ancient shibboleths we have long adhered to without benefit. We may sometimes disagree with the how and the why of policy proposals. The Parliament of the people is not an echo chamber. It is a marketplace of ideas where only those proposals that gain currency with the majority should carry the day. However, our disagreements must be grounded in a shared recognition that our present travails demand urgent interventions, and we must not allow ourselves to become victims of the cynical assumption that every policy proposal or response is a result of personal inducement or a grand conspiracy to bring harm to the people on whose behalf we hold political offices. We will rescind our earlier decision, he said, to proceed with the bill. The Control of Infectious Disease Bill will be put forward to a public hearing where stakeholders' contributions will be sought to make improvements to the bill before it is reviewed and debated by the Committee of the Whole. It is from the accumulation of these myriad views, suggestions, and good faith critiques from within and outside the House that we will arrive at final legislation that meets the present and future needs of our country, and which we all can support in good conscience. Yeah, welcome back. That was the statement of the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, defending himself on why he had wanted the bill to skate through quickly. Barrister, you are a human rights lawyer and an international one, for God's sake. The bill for infectious disease control, Nigerians are asking which one should come first, the bill to control diseases or infrastructure to control diseases?
Okay, thank you very much. A lot has been said about this bill that we're talking about. Nigerians are looking at death and life at this moment.
Yes.
The only thing that is trending in the whole world Nigeria inclusive, is coronavirus,
Yes.
the COVID-19 pandemic, which in history, for those of us who are the new generation, we have not seen it before. So, and we are faced with a situation where what we have, the lack in the health sector, have been reviewed over time.
Exactly.
In this period. Before now, people didn't know anything called isolation center. People didn't know what is called the lockdown and all that. Today, we hear isolation centers. And that is the time the government wakes up to begin to build in one state or the other, and some states don't even have up till now. So I think the challenge that we have at hand is not a challenge of lack of laws or lack of bills, or the passing of new bills, that we cater for this kind of pandemic. What we need is social infrastructure, health infrastructure, the welfare of health workers who are at the front line. And these are the things that if put on ground, should we have this kind of pandemic in the near future? God forbid. But if these things come, because we cannot control them, there will be infrastructures on ground, right from the federal government to the state government to the local government, and then the interior villages, with hospitals and all that equipment. That's what we should be looking at now.
And not the actual bill to regulate all.
No, we have enough bills. Like I was saying the other day to some persons, we have bills laws littered everywhere in Nigeria. The problem we have is implementation. If we have the Quarantine Act of 1926, now LFN 2004, and you feel that the law did not provide or does not provide enough, why not amend it? You have to amend it. I mean, rather than bring a new law again. And we have the NCDC Establishment Act 2018. So if you feel there are certain powers that the NCDC Director General should have, then you go ahead and amend that law. These are the things we should be talking about. When you come up with a new law, Nigerians become suspicious. Why do you want a new law in the middle of life and death pandemic like the coronavirus?
I'm telling you.
That is the challenge that we'll be facing.
All right, assuming its case true, because from what he says, it has been subjected to public hearing though, and we don't know whether this public hearing, because of the social distancing law that is still in place, would have weight. Do you think that the public hearing will actually make impact in this bill, or it will usually go the yes have it or the I have it, and the nay will just go with their disgruntledness? I don't know. If the bill scales through and people are forcefully directed to be vaccinated, do you think that is against their fundamental human rights?
Yes, basically we are in Nigeria here. The process of lawmaking is known to virtually every enlightened Nigeria. And a situation where you want to pass a bill as controversial, as directly related to human beings as this control of infectious disease bill, you cannot set aside the issue of public hearing, because the entire House of Reps members are representing the overwhelming population of Nigerians, which number over 200 million. So if you say we should not come to participate in that kind of bill, then it becomes a bill solely for the Speaker himself, Honorable Femi, and that is not what we are talking about. We are talking about Nigerians participating, civil society organizations, lawyers inclusive, policy analysts from all walks of life, health experts coming in to submit memorandum, to make oral presentation, to do all manner of argument before the House, to ensure that when the committee is considering the bill, they have what to work with. As we speak now, the Speaker was quick to amend the rules to give way for them to do without public hearing. Even before the allegation from CUPP came about $10 million bribe from Bill Gates and all that. So do we need to wait until we are alleged to have received bribe from another country, then we now bring in public hearing to a bill that ordinarily there should be public hearing? Why didn't the House of Reps at that time go by way of amending their own rules to bring in teleconferencing, video conferencing, everybody get connected, wherever you are, make your opinion known to the House, speak to the bill, make suggestions before we go into committee stage. That was not done. And even if we plan to do that, the question you'll be asking yourself is Nigeria so prepared technologically to be able to make sure the villagers have teleconference on their phone to communicate to the House of Reps? So you fall back again to the issue of infrastructure not being on ground. How far does the internet go? How many people in the rural communities, which this bill will touch on later, who will be compared by Section 47 of the bill to be vaccinated, whose children will be compared to be vaccinated and recorded? How many of them have the internet facilities? So what we are saying is the public hearing that we want is not just public hearing. It's going to be a mega public hearing, a big one of all time, because this bill, if allowed to pass, it will be disaster for Nigeria. As far as we are concerned, it is going to be against the human rights of several people. It is going to affect, people's properties. It is going to, Section 51 makes it an offense that if you don't vaccinate, you should be arrested, you should be sentenced, kept in custody somewhere. And then we are still battling with issue of human rights abuse, even in the midst of this coronavirus. We hear allegations of people being injured here and there. International communities are making noise, and civil societies we are verifying whether these facts they are giving us is true or not. So to bring a bill such as control of diseases infectious bill as being proposed, to our mind, it is not properly timed. It is uncalled for. It is a bill that is dead upon arrival. And like other bills that we have thrown out in the past, the anti-media bill and the rest of them, the Armed Forces Commission bill and the rest, we're going to throw this one out in a couple of days.
All right. Having saddled with the responsibility of representing the various constituencies in the country, the House of Rep members, they are legally bound to represent the people. Do you think that the public hearing would still, be productive in this bill? Because they could as well go ahead and say, after all, we have been elected to represent you. And the majority of the House can adopt the bill and say, yes, I do, and so on. Do you think that it will matter, the public bill, the public hearing will matter, since they are saddled with that responsibility to represent us?
Let me tell you the truth. The media is doing a very great work. If you go and check the records, what we have known recently is that the media people, they are on the field.
Like we are doing.
You are doing now. So people, as we are talking here, the House of Reps people, they are watching.
Yes.
Whether they like it or not, their brothers and sisters are watching.
Yes.
And we have come to a time in our democracy, having practiced since 1999, where the opinion of the people must count.
Okay.
And you notice that it has been counting. It was people's opinion that moved Mr. President to institute the lockdown. It was the same public opinion that said, can you lift the lockdown? Let us have some shopping here and there. Public opinion is still saying that Mr. President should go back to lockdown. So, and I don't know what he will do. So these are things that shape democracy. They shape the aspect of lawmaking. There is no way you can divorce the public hearing in a very sensitive bill like this from the passage of the bill itself. And let me point out that, like I said before, we will want to converge at the National Assembly with my memo, with your memo, anybody who has a memo, for or against. Then you argue it.
Okay.
If the National Assembly and the House of Reps are able to have a superior argument that the bill should pass, so be it. And then the issue again comes to signing into law by Mr. President.
Okay.
And the civil society and the lawyers who failed, not minding personal interest, but talking about the interest of the masses.
Okay.
Because as we are talking now, we have interacted with people before we even came to the studio. So people are saying, this is not the bill we want now. Where the House of Reps should be talking about how well are we able to equip our hospitals?
Exactly.
How well are we able to share palliatives?
Exactly.
How did we monitor the sharing? How well have we provided protective equipment for health workers, for ensuring that people are wearing face masks and all that? I think these are the issues that do with implementation. And if you check the NCDC Act, these are all things that are there already. So why not join forces with the NCDC and federal government to make sure that the enforcement of the laws that we have already is what is on the forefront of national discourse.
Thank you, Barrister. I think we don't have much time to spend on this because I'll call you again next time when I have cause to do that. In fact, I would love you to be here tomorrow. Let's look at this issue between the House of Representatives and the Senate. Now that we are trying to cut costs amidst COVID-19 hit on our economy, should we actually continue with the House of Rep or continue with the Senate? Which one, since the two seems to be performing one function, don't you think that in the long run, or even now, we should do away with one arm of the National Assembly? That topic, I would love to invite you maybe tomorrow or Monday, as the case may be. Let's discuss it because you are versed in it. But however, what is your general overview over this? Some countries are already passing the forceful law for vaccination. Denmark has gone into that, and I think Ireland and so many other countries are going into that now. But I don't know. What is your general overview towards this lingering sponsor of bills, National Assembly of various nations trying to go into forceful vaccination? Does it spell a doom or spell righteousness for the nations?
Oh, talking about other countries, like you mentioned Denmark and the rest of them, let's say it, and we know that they are developed, we are developing countries.
Okay.
And so, for you to sign bills like that into laws, the level of awareness that you will create is something that has to be very huge. Their level of awareness, their database, their infrastructures, and all of that, their economy is not something that is close to comparing with what we have in Nigeria.
That's good.
So, if take for instance, we have social investment here and there, you have your number, I have my number, we have database. Hospitals are working, there are isolation centers everywhere. You know the law, I know the law. I mean, awareness. We will not be complaining about why are you bringing this bill. But a situation where you give the Nigeria police, for instance, under section 24 of that bill, is to enforce, arrest anybody and lock at any place if they think the person has infectious disease.
Or destroy houses.
Or destroy a house,
seize the houses.
And bring it down and seize the house. And you know the kind of country we are in. A country where everybody suspects the other. A country where you don't believe in the next man.
Yeah.
So how do you think that the policeman who is demolishing that house is not doing it because he hates you?
It's true.
These are the issues that we have not really captured.
I really want
to
thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, and I think this is where Spectacle will stop today on Television Nigeria. And don't forget to follow our social media platforms and drop your comment and your opinion as regard this bill. Thanks for watching. I have been your host, Daniel Atai. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.